It's 8 a.m. and welcome back to Wake Up Cricket powered by Pavilion Picks. You know what's interesting? The India-Pakistan game yesterday was the very first World Cup game between the two teams without having Sachin, Dhoni or Virat on the field, which is insane if you think about it. But it also makes sense because the first ever game between them was in 1992. And this is exactly why you guys are here. Now, before we get into the main news and talk about everything that's happened in cricket yesterday, I was going to say the last couple of days, hit the subscribe button.
Now, here's a story that we can't get enough of. So, why not harp upon it further? That is Pakistan getting Ishan. India crushed Pakistan by 61 runs to seal Super 8 spot at the T20 World Cup. India extended their dominance over Pakistan with a commanding 61 run win in Colombo, securing their place in the Super 8s of the T20 World Cup. In a match that went ahead after days of uncertainty over a proposed boycott, India made their intent clear as early as Ishan Kishan blasted 77 of 44 balls on a turning surface. His aggressive knock powered India to 175 for 7, a total that proved well beyond Pakistan despite a brief middle overs fight back led by their spinners. Pakistan's chase unraveled almost immediately, with Hardik Pandya striking in the first over, Jasprit Bumrah removing two key batters in the next. Usman Khan top scored with 44, but Pakistan were bowled out for 114 in 18 overs, slumping to a ninth straight completed match defeat against India. While India marched confidently into the next stage, Pakistan must now beat Namibia to keep their campaign alive.
This game for you might just be like a by-hearted thing because after the game yesterday, he was part of a 2 hours stream talking post-match
yeah.
India Pakistan. Go on then.
I can analyze this game from any angle you give me. I can give you any numbers that you want. But funnily enough, even before the start of the game, there was supposed forecast for rain. So the
True.
funniest thing that could have happened yesterday was after all of this drama, if this game got washed out,
We were hoping for it secretly.
Loki would have been less work for the day, especially on a Sunday. But here we are talking about the game. But what a game it was. Again, it was fairly one-sided. The only reason we thought that there might be some sort of competition between India and Pakistan is because it was at the R. Premadasa. You thought that because of the fact that the pitch 8 spin, the Pakistani spinners might have come into play, 5 of them. In fact, we saw 18 overs of spin from Pakistan. And the only 2 overs that weren't got belted for runs. So that's something to keep in mind. But India eventually getting 175, and Pakistan, they folded like a pack of cards. Apart from Usman Khan, who showed a little bit of resistance and actually batted pretty well, was able to play a lot of shots over the cover region. They eventually folded for 114. What did you make of the fixture?
Yeah, I mean, the Pakistan batters didn't apply themselves at all. Like, you talk about Babar Azam every now and then he does what he does. He looked out of sorts for the couple of deliveries that he faced. But every Pakistan batter, like except Usman, who came into bat, just didn't apply themselves. And of course, they wanted to play a brand of cricket. You could say that possibly because even India wanted to play a brand of cricket. But then you saw Suryakumar Yadav and Tilak Verma not striking big, not taking those risks and applying themselves. As much as you want to stick to a brand, you also have to play conditions. And I thought the Indian batters did that really, really well, except for Hardik Pandya. But it's okay, you can cut up some slack.
Well, Praatibh, you mentioned that we can ask any number of you. You did restrict yourself to 180, the number that we follow over here. All right, then moving on to the next story, that is India dominate Aussie. Ready, Renuka shine before India go 1-0 up in a rain-curtailed game. India laid down an early marker in a truncated opening T20I at the SCG as they bundled out Australia for 133 at the start of the Sophie Molino captaincy era when, were well ahead of the DLS when the rain arrived, with the required 5 overs of the chase having just been completed. Arundhati Reddy collected a career best 4 for 22, including the scalps of Litchfield and Perry, while Renuka Singh was exceptional in the power play. 5 of Australia's top 7 reached double figures, but Georgia Wareham's 30 was the top score as they lost their last 8 wickets for 65. Australia's 133 in 18 overs was the only 6th time in T20I history they'd been bowled out in the first innings, and they've only faced fewer overs on 2 occasions in any T20I innings.
The fact that the Australian team lost 2 wickets before the power play ended and then 5 wickets before the 10th over said something about the situation they found themselves in. And it's not every day Australia finds themselves in that situation, especially at home. And I think
That's
people
true.
often forget that. Like, this match is happening at home. This entire series for them is at home. And so for Australia to do that, the pitch was a little tricky in the sense that it almost looked too paced, which is also why, for example, if you look at Phoebe Litchfield's dismissal, she plays the ball way too early, even though she was settled. And Arundhati Reddy taking nothing away from her. The second she came on, she looked like she was going to take wickets. In fact, she did take a wicket. In the first over, she took a wicket in the second over. And yeah, it was just great bowling from the Indian side, and the Indian team just looked on it. Interestingly enough, and ironically, the Indian team looked more on it than Australia, even though it is in Australia. There were a few there were a few interesting selection calls
Yeah.
where Sneha, who was part of the World Cup squad, was part of the entire squad, like the playing 11 campaign leading up to the ODI World Cup. She was also part of the T20 World Cup. Was dropped straight away for someone like a Shriyanka Patil, like replacement. Also because of how she performed in the WPL. So
Yeah.
how did remember how Sneha
Yeah,
performed?
Sneha had a terrible WPL to say the least. In fact, across the 10 games, because DC played all the way to the final, she picked up just the 1 wicket, and Shriyanka Patil obviously picked up more than 1 wicket. In
I
fact,
don't
she
think
got
Sneha picked up any wicket.
any wicket. That's
Yeah.
something we'll have to check. I remember it being 1 wicket. So
But
that's
she
something to
went
keep
she
in
went
mind.
on with she had an economy of more than 10.
Yeah, that is true.
That's all I know.
And Shriyanka Patil got 5 wickets in a single game. So it was very interesting that despite having a senior season campaigner, India were ready to sacrifice that and bring in Shriyanka Patil.
True.
This selection committee has also been one that has made a lot of bold decisions.
Yeah.
They're happy to get in a lot of youngsters, and we will be seeing this. Now, what's interesting is that Shriyanka Patil, although she did get the game, she went for runs. She was expensive. She was not able to get her lines and lengths going, which means do they bring back Sneha for the second game is something you need to watch out for.
Interesting. Now, in the next story, the guys get an opportunity to storm their cricketing career. Karnataka on top, Rahul Padikkal put Karnataka in command with a 278 run stand. KL Rahul and Devdutt Padikkal stitched together a commanding 278 run partnership for the second wicket as Karnataka dominated day one of the Ranji Trophy semi-final against Uttarakhand in Lucknow. After being reduced to 18 for 1, the duo wrestled control with fluent stroke play, taking particular toll on the spinners. Rahul brought up his second successive century of the season before falling for 141 late in the day, while Padikkal remained unbeaten on 148 at stumps. Karnataka closed on a formidable 355 for 2. Uttarakhand's early promise through 18-year-old Aditya Rawat, who removed Mayank Agrawal, quickly faded as Karnataka piled on the runs. Padikkal reached his
Real
century
start.
over long on, and though Rawat eventually broke the massive stand, Karun Nair's quick start ensured the momentum never dipped. With an unbroken 59-run stand between Padikkal and Nair, Karnataka ended the day firmly in control and eyeing a substantial first innings total.
Cool. So all I'm going to say is that when we used to play age group cricket, because Megha said that we want to show off on this, Aswin was replaced by Devdutt Padikkal when he
Yeah.
had to open the batting. So what was
Yeah,
that
so
story like?
I feel like a lot of things that Devdutt does in his career, I feel like I should take credit for it. Both of us are left-handed opening batters, and how many teams would you want with your both opening batters being left-handed? So the match before, I did score a lot of runs, and then I got dropped for Devdutt, and he scored 100 that game where I was giving drinks. And since then, he's just scored a lot of runs, and we see him do that for Karnataka. The fact that both KL Rahul and Devdutt scored hundreds in the semi-final, and KL Rahul's back-to-back hundreds.
Yeah.
To be fair, we saw that coming. We talked about how Karnataka might just dominate Uttarakhand in the semi-finals. But what do you feel about KL Rahul? The way he scored runs as compared to Devdutt, because Devdutt was much quicker
True.
than KL Rahul.
I think for KL, it's become a set template, right? You know that irrespective of the conditions, whether they might be really good for batting, whether the opposition, he likes to take his time. He likes to get into his innings, and he's very happy just playing within himself. He's not looking to outdo his partner, for example, and that's perfectly what we saw on display yesterday. Karnataka are in such a brilliant position, 355 for 2 at the end of day one, is what I want to say, and there's just so much cricket to be played. Karnataka can just keep batting on. Uttarakhand, although they started off well, as Megha also pointed out, with their young fast bowler getting a wicket up front, it did not seem to set the tone for the rest of the match. Now, will Karnataka, Pakistan?
Nice.
Well, Pakistan has a lot to do against Namibia, but will Karnataka just keep batting and will we see more records being broken? Is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm hoping, I say, being an unbiased journalist, that Karnataka bats for a very long time and they just keep batting and batting the entire day 2, entire day 3, and just bundle out Uttarakhand after that.
Score 1,000 runs.
Yeah.
And Ashwin, we don't take your assessment of Padikkal with a pinch of salt. We absolutely by every word that you utter. Moving on, retired for what? Namibia batter out in vain as USA clinched 31-run win. Namibia became the first team to retire a batter out at the 2026 T20 World Cup after pulling wicketkeeper Zane Green off in the 18th over of the chase against USA in Chennai. With 51 needed from the final 12 balls in the pursuit of 200, Green was retired on 18 of 13 to bring in Ruben Trumpelman in a tactical move. However, the gamble failed as Namibia managed only 19 runs from the final 2 overs, falling 31 runs short. Coach Craig Williams said the decision was based on matchups and the need for greater boundary hitting at the death. It marked only the second retired out instance at a men's T20 World Cup, both initiated by Namibia, following a similar move in 2024. While tactical retirements are increasingly common in franchise cricket, they remain rare at international level. The defeat eliminated Namibia from the tournament, though their final group match against Pakistan could still influence qualification from Group A, something that the two of you wanted to address via a Freudian slip as well.
Yeah, that is true. Now, this is very interesting. The fact that Namibia has done this before in the T20 World Cup says something about their team. But it's more interesting because if you look at the situation in itself, because Green was retired out. Now, objectively, when you think of his score and think of matchups, right, it makes sense. But in the match situation, it didn't make all that sense because in the 2 overs prior to that, he was the only batter to hit those 2 boundaries. The fact that he hit a boundary and then he was retired out the next ball, a lot of people were confused. I'm sure even he was confused himself because until that point, he was the only batter to be able to get those boundaries. After that, they did get those couple of sixes and boundaries away. But it was too late after that. Like, it was too late to make that decision because they needed, 50 of 12 deliveries, if I'm not wrong, by the time this retirement was taking place and Trumpelman came into bat. And by the time he got strike, they needed 40 of 7. So at that point, it was too late. Having more than 50 runs in the last 2 overs to make a retired out decision while the one batter who is scoring those boundary is retired out, it was funny to say the least. And the fact that Namibia has done this before, I don't know what it says about them.
I mean, it says that there is obviously this limited skill set, but they're also tactically ready to try a lot of things. But this was especially hilarious because even the person for whom they were getting the retired out in place to get Trumpelman in to hit those runs finally got strike only almost an over after he was actually supposed to come out and hit those boundaries. Sadly enough, his boundaries were not going to be enough. Namibia is mostly, they've crashed out of the tournament, but they can still influence the positions of some of the teams that are to play. So that's something to watch out for as the rest of the tournament progresses.
If you were to continue flaunting, we've spoken to the Namibian captain before, except he would have had a game yesterday to forget. I don't think he would have been proud of what happened and the decision he might have taken to retire a batter out. So maybe not his best day yesterday, but hopefully against Pakistan, the whole team can step up.
So you have a questionnaire ready for the next time that you interview him, considering that you'd also let us know that he's in your WhatsApp contact list and whatnot. Good morning, Sandeep. You've been fairly consistent at our show. Moving on to the next story, which is on low Ranji standards. Accusations of technology streaming being glitchy due to supposed poor ground infrastructure. And there are a lot of tweets as well to supplement that, which we can have on our screens.
Cool. So as you can see, this tweets come up. This isn't even the entire thread, but it just makes for some really interesting discourse, right? So Mohsin Kamal is a well-established Jammu and Kashmir journalist, covers all of their cricket. Funnily enough, he doesn't get entry to the JKCA ground itself. That's something he keeps standing about. But in this rant, he basically talks about how they're playing this knockout game in an academy ground. Now, when you put it this way, it feels like the Ranji matches should be taking place in proper international stadiums, at least for the knockouts, which of course I do think should be the norm. But to call that just another academy ground was also not right on his part, because that is a ground that in fact has been Bengal's home ground this season and has produced some of the best pitches. Hence the arguments also in that particular thread, because the remaining tweets are also from fellow journalists who have basically pointed out that the infrastructure of the stadium itself might not have much to do with the glitching or the streaming, in fact, because The point here is that maybe the wires going around are not properly laid or whatever, but that is definitely not the case. So the point here is, don't believe everything that you see on the internet blindly. Always think about what you have to say. But
I mean, yeah, that's true because to be fair, if you look at Karnataka, a lot of their games, if not for Chinnaswamy, used to take place in Alur. Now, objectively, when you think about an Alur stadium, or if you've seen pictures, there are three grounds next to each other. That is an academy ground. That is a certified KSCA, Karnataka State Cricket Association ground. So when you think about infrastructure, there isn't much because you can't really sit around. There's no space for audiences to sit and watch the match. So yeah, that is an academy ground again. But they are beautiful grounds. And a lot of the times, Karnataka preferred to play on Alu because the pitches were just so much better than Chinnaswamy. Because half of the time in Chinnaswamy, it was just flat decks. So, yeah, when you think about it, Chinnaswamy is an international ground. Alur is an academy ground. Yet, Alur is just a beautiful, much better ground. A lot of people from the state preferred to play in Alur because of the pitches, because of how lush the outfields would be.
Yeah.
Just beautiful grounds to play on. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it being an academy ground, so it's not good enough to play a semi-final or a final. I think if the pitch is good enough, if the outfield is good enough, if those grounds look even better than the international stadiums, then why not?
Which can be the case quite a few times, especially with the outfield to keep in mind.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Ashwin, we don't want to know the number of runs that you've scored in Alur or Chinnaswamy for that matter. At least today, that information can wait until tomorrow. Talking about trolling and memes, well, the wrong Sharma, and that should be self-explanatory. Yesterday, obviously, Abhishek Sharma provided a lot of meme content.
Yeah, we were trying to find out like the context of this. And we think it's because of the lack of runs Rohit Sharma scored against Pakistan in T20s. Because against Pakistan in T20s, the average is only 14. But in ODIs, the average is 49. So I'm assuming it's not that. Maybe it's the World Cup, how he doesn't score a lot of runs against Pakistan in the World Cup. And that's with the wrong Sharma. But there were a lot of comments on Reddit. This is a whole Reddit thread. It's a whole cricket shit post subreddit. I wasn't too sure about the lag was there for a second. But there was a lot of comments about how he doesn't bat under pressure, which is not true. Rohit Sharma does bat under pressure. And so then I didn't really understand the context of this. Maybe it's just T20s. Rohit Sharma against Pakistan in T20s, and Abhishek Sharma hasn't really scored against Pakistan in T20s as of yet. In Asia Cup, he didn't. Oh, that's not true. He had a good start.
Had a decent start.
I still have no idea what the context is. I just thought it was funny because I didn't even understand the meme. And so I thought it'd be a good discourse.
This is the time when you go to those Instagram pages that are made specifically to explain the particular meme. That would be nice. But yeah, it's something to think about for India. It's not something that India should be thinking about. It's something that the fans are thinking about because of the fact that Abhishek Sharma's had 2 failed innings. Till now, a funny trend we were seeing with him is he would score in one game, 0 in one of the next game, score again. And that's how it was going for him. Now, of course, you have to cut him some slack because of the fact that he's just come back from being hospitalized. And if he's playing the game, of course, he's probably 100% fit enough to be playing. But more than anything, I think it's just the fact that he was in a certain mind headspace and certain routine. And that's something that might have been broken.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't think this deserves any kind of trolling. Knowing Abhishek Sharma, he's probably going to come good anyways.
Yeah, he's been the highest scorer for the Indian team. He's been the most consistent for the Indian team in the last year or so. I feel like, I mean, it's fine. Abhishek Sharma could have few bad games and a lot of people will start talking about how his style of play does not work until he scores a massive 100 once again. So it's okay in a tournament like this as long as he starts performing in the end. To be fair, even if he doesn't perform the entire tournament, I'm okay with it because you know what he can do. It's just a bad tournament. As much as it's the World Cup and you need to perform, there's a World Cup every year. So at this point, give him a chance another World Cup. He will probably perform.
I mean, it's so reminiscent to Shubman Gill in the 2023 ODI World Cup, right? Because coming into that, he was in red hot form, averaging around 60 in ODIs.
Yeah.
And then he just had a really not so good World Cup. Had
Because he got
dengue
sick
as well. So very similar context and also from 2 very good friends.
True.
So life comes around in weird ways. But for Abhishek Sharma, we hope that he gets runs and soon.
And so that is our live. I think, that is our live with all the major news. But there are a couple of matches to look forward to today.
I will have to pull up the matches.
By the way, Megha, there was an upset over the weekend. Zimbabwe stunned Australia. We had a first upset. Yeah, that's true. Oh, I was glad we saw a first upset. We were hoping for it. But What's the game like today?
Awesome. So we have Afghanistan versus UAE starting in just about 3 hours time. That's going to be an interesting fixture. I'll be surprised if Afghanistan doesn't come out on top. But every time I say that I will be surprised, it's the other team that ends up winning. For Zimbabwe and Australia, I reverse jinxed it. I knew what I was doing. I also
You also
called
said
it on
that for
air.
West Indies and England,
Exactly.
and West Indies won that game.
Yeah. So keep it in mind. Whoever wants their team to win, just let me know, and I'll figure something out for you. After that, you have England, Italy. This is one that I'm excited for. Knowing the fact that Italy beat Nepal and knowing the fact that Nepal almost beat England by the property of transitivity, I think Italy is going to be beating England today. I
Wow.
would love to see that. And
Property of transitive. I can't even pronounce the second word.
and the last one, Australia versus Sri Lanka. It's going to be an important fixture because Australia has definitely not played their best brand of cricket. Sri Lanka know what they're doing. So that might once again see another, I wouldn't call it an upset, but
True.
But yeah.
But Megha, give us a prediction about Australia, Sri Lanka, and then we'll finish this off. Who's going to come out on top? Do you think it might just be another upset? Australia are a top team, but Sri Lanka is playing at home, spinning tracks. What do you think?
I think Sri Lanka are beleaguered like in every other tournament because at the start of the tournament they are always dealt with an injury setback like this time around Hassan. Overall, their batting doesn't fire collectively, does not have that explosiveness. And Australia, high time they pull up their socks. I think had it been Super 6, it could have gotten spicy. At least the group stage, I think they'd see through. Unless you guys like to.
There you go. We are not predicting because tomorrow we can say "told you so" without actually predicting. But there you go. You've heard from Megha straight away. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. once again at Wake Up Cricket at. This is Wake Up Cricket, powered by Pavilion Picks. See you guys tomorrow. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.